Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we'll be talking about the monthly expenses as an international student here in Adelaide, Australia. Before we move any further, it is important to understand that the monthly expenses will differ from an individual to another. It's because while the rent, fuel cost and the utility bills may nearly be the same, but miscellaneous costs like the expenses of mobile and internet, how much is spent on eating outside or going to clubs, pubs, or even watching movies make the difference. And that may be a huge variable, but otherwise, there's a fixed amount within which most of the students usually spend. All right, so the first major expense is the rent. The rent may differ from anywhere between $100 per week to as much as $250 a week. Now, there are a lot of factors that determine how much you're going to incur towards your rent. If you're going to stay in the CBD of Adelaide or any other city in Australia or Canada or any other city in the world, it is going to cost you more. But if you're staying in a suburb that's say about 4 or 5 kilometers away from the heart of the city, it is going to cost you much lesser. If you're lucky, you may get a great deal just around the peripheries of the CBD. So I incur about $360 towards my rent every fortnight. So every fortnight is basically every 2 weeks. So if you break it down further, that means I'm incurring about $180 every week towards just my rent. Now, another important update here, or the key point that you need to remember, is I stay in a shared accommodation. That means I share my rental property with one of my friends, and we both usually spend equals on our rents, on our utility bills, and even on our groceries. So because it's a much simpler equation to calculate, that's just dividing everything by 2, it's rather simpler. But if you're living in a larger circle, if you are with say 4 or 5 friends, it is going to cost you even less. The rents may drop to as low as $100 or $110 per week. That's good. Most of Indian students do that. They find friends from their course or from the place of origin in India, and that really helps in cutting down cost. And some of the people even try and manage to collect enough money to be able to pay their fees. The next major expense is actually maintaining the car, the fuel, insurance, and registration. So I usually spend about $40 or $50 every week on just the fuel. I like driving around the city. I like just exploring the nearby beaches and things like that. So I have to mandatorily spend at least $40 or $50 on just the fuel. Apart from that, I also pay as much as $25 towards the insurance and registration of the car, and it depends on which company you're taking as your insurer. So that is again a subjective option there. So all in all, every month you're looking at about $200 to $280 towards your car. That includes your fuel, your insurance, and registration. And keep in mind that the registration is valid for 3 months, so you have to do it every 3 months. So it's a quarterly expense, but that you can also put it on plans and have it deducted in installments. And now moving on to the next major expense, it is towards the internet and network connectivity cost. So there are a lot of brands that operate in this industry here. There's Optus, that's pretty popular among students. There's Telstra, which is relatively costly but has great coverage, and there's Vodafone that has good connectivity as well. But the cheapest, I would say, out of personal experience is Optus. But you need to keep in mind that they have the best prices only when there is student intakes. If you're trying to get connected to them midway through the year, they may not cost you as efficiently as they would otherwise be. So keep in mind to get connected as soon as you land here in Australia. All right, so the next expense is towards your transportation. If you're regularly going to go to classes at university or your respective college, it is highly unlikely that you'll be driving there because parking is pretty costly here. So if you're going to park your car somewhere, it's going to cost you anywhere between $4.5 to as high as $11 or $12, depending on the hour that you're entering the parking premise. There is a concept called early bird parking fee, but then that applies to people who go in really early. I think it's you need to be there on the parking lot before 8 a.m. in the morning. That is not usually the case because classes are usually between 9 to 4. So it is advised that you take the bus or the trains here to reach the CBD or your respective college campus. So towards the transportation, you can get a metro card. I'll just pop it up in a while and I'll show you how it looks. It's usually green in color. That means it's a student concession. There are different colors that are graded to show the kind of concession that that respective card allows you to access. And on a student card, you get a special recharge that allows you to travel for a month long on $50 only. So that's towards your transportation. And now the next rather minor expense is towards your entertainment. So when I say entertainment, it includes a lot of things. It is your Netflix, Amazon Prime and Kayo subscriptions. It may also mean your pubbing and clubbing expense. So that is going to differ a lot. So there's no limit to clubbing and pubbing. So it just keeps on multiplying every time you go. But the entry fees are somewhere between $30 to $50, and they probably multiply by 2 on the weekends. And as far as your subscriptions are concerned, you're looking at anywhere between $10 to $15 every month for each of these streaming platforms. So that is your cost towards entertainment. And then finally there is the miscellaneous bracket, that is all your contingent expenses that may come, which are unforeseeable. So I generally like to keep about $200 towards miscellaneous expenses, and that usually just works out fine. So all in all, the complete math is as follows.